Yeah.
Okay, so obviously comedy's going really great for you.
Yeah.
You are on your second tour,
Yep.
but you also are in acting too. I mean, like
Mhm.
you did that too. Is that still something that you're pursuing? Is that like like, would you call that even? It's not even like a side hustle. It's still like a huge other career. But what's
Yeah,
your
well,
focus on these days?
so some days it feels like a side hustle. Let me tell you what. I have auditioned for every TV show, every movie, anything that's come out in the last 5 years, I have submitted a tape for, and it is my favorite job in the world to just sit back on the couch and watch all the other famous actresses who have booked those roles instead of me, and each time I'm like, "They probably deserve that." No, I mean, I was, I went to school for acting. That is my first love is theater and being on camera, but with stand-up, I was always able to make my own opportunities, and I was like, "If I
Mhm.
write it and you build it, they will come." And so no one can tell me no, which has been really refreshing. I mean, I have a TV show that we're developing at NBC, but all of that stuff takes so much time. And there's so
Yeah.
many other people who have to give you permission with stand up and with comedy and, writing jokes. If it's a thought in my head and I put it out there, it's out there. And I don't have
Mhm.
to wait for permission. So, I mean, yeah, I would love to be on like the next hit Succession spinoff where I get to play someone. Here's the thing, Hannah, I say, I'm so sick of myself. Like in stand up, I talk about myself. The podcast, I talk, you draw from real life experience. I want to put on a wig. I want to play a cafeteria lady who's addicted to meth, who has a heart of gold, but, maybe she gets a couple DUIs. Like, let me be that character. I'm ready. Put me in, coach.
But you do have this Netflix special, Son I Never
Yeah.
Had, and I'm interested how that even, like, works. Do you pitch yourself for that, or did they come to you?
So it can work a lot of ways. Whitney Cummings, who's been kind of a role model to me in the comedy world, was like, produce it yourself. Don't wait for anybody to give you permission. So I went ahead at the tail end of last year when I knew my tour was wrapping up, and I went ahead and shot it. And my creative partner Jen Zabrowski directed it. She and I are the ones who were developing the show at NBC. And I said, let me send somebody a finished product because these folks, at all these big streamers or at networks, they may not know who I am per se. So then I tied it up in a pretty bow and I sent it off. And then we had people bidding on it and who wanted it. And now it's going to live at Netflix, which is the coolest thing. And so even though this is coming out, I'm also producing my own next special that I'm shooting in 3 weeks in Atlanta. And then I'm just going to keep doing that. And then, let people take it where they want or, that way also creatively, like I can control what I get to do.
Mhm. Do you
Again, I
think that
don't go ahead. Sorry.
No, do you think that's the key? Because I feel like this is something I need to be better about. It's like, I think sometimes I wait and think, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before." But do you
Yeah.
feel like that is actually the key to success is just going in and, like, doing it for yourself?
Do it. The best advice I got was don't ask for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times listen, I was in like a freeze frame, like you were talking about earlier about like, well, I'm not being creative enough. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
I'm going out on the road. I'm doing 90 minutes a night. I'm having to come up with a new hour every week on the podcast, doing all this stuff. Like just because you are working behind the scenes and people don't see it right in front of their faces does not mean that you're not putting in the work. Like I was working my
Mhm.
ass off on the road and I was like, but nobody is seeing this. Obviously people are coming out to my shows and it's incredible. But I was like, but how do I open myself up to the next group of folks that don't maybe know my name. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this myself. And then it's just been awesome to see how, it helps me sleep well at night to be like, all right, people universally love to giggle. So here we are.
Mhm.
But it's still
Yeah.
scary. I mean, I'm putting my own time, money, effort, and it's also feels as this sounds so cheesy and trite. And I apologize to anybody who's listening, but with this first special, I'm like, again, I shot this a year ago and now it's coming out to the world. And it's like my creative process, it feels almost very vulnerable. I'm like, it's
Mhm.
out there. It's out there for anybody to make a comment on. But that was even my real story about how I lost my dad and how I went through life and what I was like as a kid, my childhood, and all these stories woven together, and how I suffered with infertility and still do. And I talk about egg freezing and all these things. And I'm like, it's out there for anybody to say
Mhm.
anything and judge. And that's kind of a weird feeling. But then I also have to be like,
Mhm.
yeah, kid.